Welcome to Pages and Pods. In this episode, we will begin exploring the story of a young Egyptian priest initiate named Her-Bak, described by Isha-Schwaller de Lubitz in her book by the same name. She combined her years of study with her husband, René, with her own clairvoyant understanding of the illuminated records of 18th dynasty Egypt to explain the mystical rites of passage into Egyptian priesthood. Her story describes in narrative format what her husband, René, presented in his book, Temple of Man. The Schwallers had conceived the living memory of the pharaonic mind and brought forth the esoteric understanding of Egypt's personal relationship with the one true God. René Schwaller's investigations are very technical and, to many, unreachable, which led his partner Isha to bring the journey into Egyptian priesthood to life as dialogues between Her-Bak and the high priests of the Temple of Luxor. Unfortunately, their work was suppressed by the entrenched academics. To this day, the dogmatism and closed-minded perception of university archaeologists and Egyptologists continue to explain away the temples and pyramids as edifices of simple-minded, unenlightened kings and priests who worship dogs, cats, and birds. By using a spiritually based scientific approach, the Schwallers decoded a rich cultural history spread out over 2,000 or more years during a time that Rudolf Steiner explained as the Egypto-Chaldean period, when the pharaohs and his priests had a direct, instinctive understanding of the singular solar emanation of Amun, the unknowable creator hidden behind the sun. They connected to Amun through his emanations of Atum, the self-generated origin of existence, Ra, the solar radiance through which the divine becomes visible in the world, and Ta, the creative intellect that gives form and structure to reality. This was done by spiritually merging with the aspects of the divine purpose through aspects of God such as Horus, as the bringer of harmony, and Thoth, the keeper of eternal wisdom. Isha encourages you, the reader, to use your spiritual intuition to enter the mind of Her-Bak. You know, the name means the face of Horus. As he walks away from his ordinary life where his family called him Chickpea and is led by a wise sage into the hypostyle of the temples of Mut and Amun. Around him stand giant columns painted with the mysteries of the Egyptian priests, passed down through 100 generations of initiates. The story begins beneath the massive columns of the hypostyle, where three masters, being enlightened high priests, await him. He meets the master of mysticism, the master of geometry, and the master of symbols, three old wise men who stand before the threshold of his initiation. Behind them is a small door, virtually unnoticeable to all who enter the great hall, which leads to the inner chambers of the temple, where a large community of priests live, seeking deeper enlightenment. The master of mysticism will test Her-Bak's nascent understanding of the soul to see if he understands that it is more than a spirit to be judged on the scales by Anubis and allowed into eternity, but to determine if Her-Bak understands its purpose for existing at all. The master of geometry will test him for his understanding that all of reality is proportion and balance. And the master of symbols will see if he can perceive beyond the simple meaning of the ancient hieroglyphs. You must know that the wisdom of the priest was already several thousand years old, and picture in his mind a clairvoyant, instinctive understanding of how to connect with the creator of all things. From the master of mysticism, he learns that man is the tabernacle of the divine word. From the master of geometry, he is told that man is the measure of the cosmos. And from the master of symbols, he learns that man is a living statue of the great world and sum of all of its symbols. Her-Bak impresses them not with his knowledge, which he admits he doesn't know. That's why he's come to the priesthood. He impresses them by the quality of his questions. To this end, they persist in asking him what he hopes to obtain. "What is your inmost desire, Her-Bak?" asks the mystic. Her-Bak answers, "To feel the life in me and in everything." You might ask, why would he desire this? Because, to the ancient Egyptians, everything had a mind. From the rocks to the gazelles and all of humanity, everything had the mind of the Creator. To feel the living thought in everything would be to know the one true God. The mystic continued, "Learn then to know the world in yourself. Never look for yourself in the world, for this would be to project your illusions." Next, the geometer asked, "What do you wish to know, Her-Bak?" He answers, "The truest truth. Even if it were to prove disagreeable, I wish only to know what is most true." Then the symbolist asks, "What do you wish to do, Her-Bak?" He says, "To give others what I get." To give one must have. To teach one must know the nature of those whom one is teaching. Their symbol, that is to say, study men and things through their symbolism. The master priests allow Her-Bak to pass through the threshold, the doorway leading into sacred knowledge. Isha-Schwaller de Lubitz describes this as follows: "A door is power, and it is ineluctable destiny. Power because it reveals the meaning of that to which it opens the way. Destiny because the threshold once crossed imposes the direction and meaning on you." Her-Bak will enter into a hero's journey where the greatest obstacles are not monsters of the physical world, but the true meaning of truth itself. His journey will lead him to the purpose of the Creator and his role in fulfilling his path in creation. The sage who brought him to the master priests leaves him with these thoughts: "Don't let yourself be deceived by a too facile confusion of the abstract causal netters with the concrete form in which they have been depicted." In other words, don't accept the simple meaning of the hieroglyphs. Use your spiritual instinct to grasp the purpose and causation revealed by them. For now, understand that the symbols presented in the hieroglyphs describe the purpose of the Creator in the form of gods, animals, and artifacts. I will devote a podcast just to the netters. The hieroglyphs can't be seen as simple pictures, but as inspiration for a spiritual association the Schwallers called the intelligence of the heart. That is your spiritual clairvoyance. The entirety of pharaonic cosmology is explained by the netters, which are the symbolic representations of the purpose of the ultimate Creator, Amun. Understanding the netters as they are painted as hieroglyphs, the initiate must find the netters animating in his own physical body. That is the purpose directing your existence. For Her-Bak, he must grasp the magic of analogs, that is, the spirit within the symbols. In my opinion, the ego declares a truth as it is known to the seeker. Perhaps this is why Egyptologists, archaeologists, and those who adhere to humanistic science proclaim their truths as absolute. They refuse to listen to the intelligence of their own heart. Yet the greatest sages of the world, the rishis, Zoroaster, Moses, Buddha, and Christ, they taught that purely humanistic truth is driven by the desire to only look into ourselves, when in fact, truth's truth is waiting to be found in the life of the mind of everything, that is, in the source of creation itself. The hieroglyphs represent the spirit encoded in imagery through which we may encounter the pharaonic mind and follow the path to the true solar heart where the journey to the source of emanation begins. In the next episode, we will explore the purpose of the divine mind as revealed by the netters, as explained through the intuitive narrative of Isha-Schwaller de Lubitz. What amazes me when I read books by intuitive researchers such as Isha and René is how passionate and devoted they were to their study, and how they opened a window to real people who lived thousands of years ago. Let that sink in. Before there was a Rome, before there were European nations, before the formation of the United States, there were people experiencing thoughts, insecurities, and revelations just like you and me. And their lives are now literally buried under the sand of time. Now the clock is ticking closer to midnight, and I know I've been at this for too long. But I'm encouraged by the number of people who have subscribed, so leave a comment about something you felt from Isha's insights. And in the morning, pause to experience something normally gone unnoticed, the flutter of some leaves or the wisp of the wind at your feet. And in that moment, ask yourself, what is the divine thought creating this?